What if the most dangerous thing about AI isn't that it takes your job, but that it takes your identity? Stay with me here, because this is not another video about robots replacing workers. This goes much deeper. And by the end, you might realize that the real crisis AI is triggering has almost nothing to do with economics and everything to do with the psychology of who you are. Let's start with a thought experiment. Tomorrow morning, you wake up, you check your phone, and you find out that the career you spent a decade building, the degree your parents sacrificed for, the title that made you feel like you mattered, is no longer needed. Not because you failed, not because you weren't good enough, simply because an algorithm can now do it faster, cheaper, and more accurately than you ever could. How does that feel? Most people think the answer is fear. Fear of losing income, fear of falling behind. And yes, that's real, but psychologists will tell you something far more unsettling. The deepest wound isn't financial, it's existential. Let me give you a real-world example. Meet Daniel. For years, Daniel was an elite cybersecurity architect. He was the human shield protecting national hospital networks from hackers. Life and death depended on his code. He was highly respected, highly paid, and highly necessary. But today, autonomous AI defense systems can detect, trap, and neutralize cyber threats in milliseconds, rewriting their own code faster than Daniel can even blink. His entire department is being downsized. Daniel is left staring at his screen, wondering, if a machine can do my life's work in 3 seconds, what is left that only a human can do? For millions like Daniel around the world, this is not science fiction anymore. This is an unfolding reality. And it forces us to face the elephant in the room. Yes, governments must urgently figure out how we will pay our bills. But the second question runs even deeper. If we don't work, then who are we? If I don't produce, do I even still matter? To understand why this terrifies us so much, we only need to look at one of the most robust frameworks in modern psychology, self-determination theory, developed by Deci and Ryan. This theory states that to be psychologically healthy and motivated, humans require 3 basic things: autonomy, relatedness, and competence. Competence is the feeling that you are good at something, that you are effective, that you can impact the world around you. For centuries, especially since the Industrial Revolution, modern society has packaged that need for competence entirely into our jobs. We tied our identity and our worth to what we do. What do you do? Became shorthand for who are you and how much are you worth. Every project you complete, every problem you solve, every client you protect, it feeds this internal psychological voice that says, I can do things, I am useful. Now imagine AI slowly silencing that voice. Not violently, not dramatically, just gradually making your contribution feel less necessary. When an algorithm outperforms your competence, you don't just feel anxious, you feel hollow. This is not just a job crisis. This is a meaning crisis, and if we're not careful, we might be heading toward a Great Depression of identity. Not a collapse of markets, but a collapse of the very thing that makes people feel like they matter. This is where the legendary psychiatrist Viktor Frankl becomes incredibly relevant. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, observed human nature in the darkest conditions imaginable. In his groundbreaking book, Man's Search for Meaning, he proved that human beings are not primarily driven by pleasure or money or power. We are driven by meaning. Frankl wrote that humans can endure almost any suffering, any loss of status or comfort, as long as they have a why to live for. So here is the critical question for our generation. In an age where AI can do most of what we were trained to do, where does our why come from? What if AI isn't the end of purpose, but rather the beginning of a new way to imagine it? When survival no longer strictly depends on traditional labor, I believe human roles will evolve into 3 new psychological circles. Let's call them the guardians, the pioneers, and the adapters. Let's start with the guardians. These are people driven by our survival and ethics as a humanity. They will work in medicine, climate science, public safety, and bioethics. But their roles will be heavily reshaped. Take Daniel, our cybersecurity expert. He is no longer manually writing defense codes. Instead, he becomes a human risk strategist.
The AI handles the data, but Daniel leverages his understanding of human psychology, geopolitics, and ethics to decide how the AI should respond to a foreign attack without starting a war. His expertise shifts from technical processing to moral reasoning and human judgment. Next, we have the pioneers.
Those are driven by curiosity rather than survival. The scientists, the philosophers, the explorers. A logistics manager whose job has been fully replaced by AI might find himself leaning into an old, buried passion for astronomy. Using AI-powered upskilling tools, he becomes a cosmic systems architect. He works with an AI trained on decades of astrophysics data, simulating the cosmos, exploring the universe simply for the joy of discovery. He reclaims his right to what psychology calls self-actualization. But sandwiched between the two is the largest and probably most overlooked group, the adapters. These people won't be measured by their output, their wealth, or their titles. They will be measured by how they live, how they connect, and how they create meaning. A graphic designer might find herself rethinking her place in this world as AI automates her commercial work. So she pivots. She runs community art workshops.
She takes care of her aging father. She hosts a podcast on emotional intelligence. She is not traditionally employed by a corporation, but she deeply contributes to the emotional fabric of her community. Now, modern capitalism has long dismissed this kind of work as unproductive or low value. But the greatest psychological study ever conducted proves our economic system is entirely wrong.
For over 80 years, the Harvard study of adult development tracked the lives of thousands of people, from their teens to old age, trying to find the single most important factor for a good human life. The conclusion? It wasn't career success, it wasn't wealth, it wasn't even cholesterol levels. The number one predictor of human health, longevity, and happiness was the quality of our relationships. The adapters are doing the most vital work in human society.
Caring for others, nurturing connections, creating emotional safety, these are the very things that keep humans alive and sane. Society just hasn't learned to compensate it yet. If we want to survive this transition, our systems have to change. First, we need to rethink how we compensate contribution. If AI reduces the need for traditional work, we must design systems that bring security beyond the paycheck. Legacy, connection, and societal care must become the new currencies of aspiration. Second, we need to rewire education. We must stop training humans to compete with algorithms. Education must prepare people not only with technical skills, but with character, emotional intelligence, empathy, and resilience. We must prepare people not only to earn, but to belong. And third, we must invest in our emotional infrastructure. As jobs disappear, so will identities. People will need spaces, communities, and counseling to help them rediscover who they really are when the uniform is taken off. Imagine waking up every morning to a daily feed not filled with stock prices, but with small, beautiful contributions around you. Who helped a child read today? Who mentored someone in line? Who composed a new piece of music that lifted the neighborhood spirits? Let me bring this full circle. Remember that thought experiment at the beginning? You wake up tomorrow, and your career is gone. If that future sounds abstract or terrifying, I want you to do one thing. Think about the most meaningful and special moments in your life, the ones you remember when you are alone at night or surrounded by the people you love. Did those moments happen at your desk? Were they about productivity metrics? No, they were moments of connection, of creativity, of compassion, of truly seeing someone and being seen in return. That is what remains when the job title is stripped away. And that is what no AI will ever replicate. The age of AI is not just testing our technology, it is testing our psychology. It is asking us whether we built our identity on something solid or on something that was always temporary. We must stop teaching people that their worth is only measured by their output. The real question of this era isn't, will AI make me useless? It's this: when the work disappears, will you still know who you are? And if that question terrifies you, good. Because that terror is the beginning of the most important journey you'll ever take. The journey back to yourself. Thank you for watching Mind Grove.